In this lesson, we're going to dive into a Delta blues style example that will get you moving around the fretboard and blend a bright melody with some fun chording and a couple of thumb picking tricks thrown in there just to help you level up your acoustic blues. Premium members have access to additional lesson materials like a slow video tutorial, downloadable PDF and Guitar Pro tab files, and the Sound Slice interactive tab player. You can slow down, loop certain parts to help you learn at your own speed. Plus, you have access to the entire library of premium lessons. If you're not already a premium member, you can find out how to join at the link in the description. Now, let's get on with today's lesson. We get into the main riff with a really cool roll that we're kind of using as a turnaround. Let's hear it. All right, let's break that down. First off, let's talk about the picking because we really want to make sure and get this rolling sound happening and not even worry so much about what's happening on the fretboard, just as a way to kind of practice this. And what we can do is put the pick, and I'm using a thumb pick here, and put it on the 4th string. Although you can certainly play this without a thumb pick. You don't need it. You could play with your bare fingers here. No harm in that at all. And I'm going to play the 4th string, and then I'm going to play the 3rd string with my index finger, and then followed by the middle finger playing the 2nd string. And when you do that in succession like this, the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, try to get it up to a quicker tempo. It's a great little exercise. Slow down if you need to before worrying about what's happening on the fretboard, right? That's what's going to help this thing get that roll sound. Once you're ready to tackle it, what I want you to do is bar across the 2nd fret. This might seem a little bit extraneous at first, but it's going to come in handy. Bar all the way from strings 5 all the way up through to the 2nd, all right? And then we're going to play on that same string set, 4, 3, and 2, with that picking that we just practiced. And what I'm going to do is put my little finger, I like to put my little finger just to keep my fingers closer together. No need to stretch when you don't have to, right? I'm going to put that on the F sharp, that's the 4th fret of the 4th string, and I'm going to play my little roll, right? Just thumb, index, ring. Then I'm going to lift up that finger and do it again. This is where having that bar comes in handy. Then I'm going to move everything to strings 5, 4, and 3. So we moved it down a string set. I know I'm going that way physically in direction, but in pitch, I'm moving down the strings, right? All right, then I'm going to do that again, picking up, right? So here's what we have. Once we get to this B note on the 5th string, we're not going to do this roll again. We're just going to play it and then follow up with the 6th string, 3rd fret, that G. Kind of gets us out of this. But we've got this rolling pattern that gets us there. Right? Let's do it again. And having that bar in place where you could play a chord there really is going to really help you out, because especially when you start getting this up to speed, you're going to want to be able to just move on and off the 4th string and 5th string without having to drag a bar with you. You could do it that way, and if that's comfortable for you and you're able to execute it, great. But for me, it was easier and more efficient to just hold that bar in place the whole time and move through the strings. So once again, the part, and that sets us up for the main riff, which starts in A. All right, that's the structure for what we're going to call the main riff. And you can tell, even though we're playing this fingerstyle, there's not a heck of a lot of bass going on here. We're doing a lot on the top couple of strings, but we are kind of adding a little bit of contrast by stepping into the main riff with a nice bass roll, one that we picked up in the main turnaround section, where we just kind of stumble through the 6th string and then the 5th string. Then what we're going to do is play an upstroke, just a little brush up with this shape. And you don't have to play the entire shape. You might recognize that as a D shape, but all the way up here, it's actually an A, because there's our A root, and there's the E, by the way, and the C sharp. All right, but we're really just going to play the top couple of strings here, but you can play it like this if that's a familiar shape for you to hop into. So we're going to kick this off with that bass stumble, and keep in mind that when we get to that A, that's the downbeat. That's beat 1. This is before the beat, right? And we're just going to do a little brush up and then down. And on the down, I like to do more of kind of a little flick with my fingers, and I'll actually bring on my second finger, my middle finger here, to take care of that, right? We just did the upstroke here, and I'll come back down with the middle finger, like that. Just a nice little 1-2 combo there. And the last thing I'm doing before we move on to the rest of the riff is I'm choking down on the strings. You see my hand kind of open up and stop the strings, right? And then we're going to move down to this little piece of a chord, right? You could think of it as coming from a D7, right? But just the top 2 strings, really all we're going to need here. Now, I find it comfortable for me to back down the string, the first string, with my ring finger, and then kind of, you can see this, a very similar shape to this, but I just kind of move the index finger from the 3rd string to the 2nd and just get this middle finger out of the way, right? That's what's happening mechanically as I'm moving through the frets here. When I get to that, I'm playing the top string first and then the 2nd string. Top string being the 1st string. Then rolling through and hitting the open 1st string. With that ringing, move your hand and slide from the C to the C sharp on the 2nd string. And then we're going to end that by playing the A on the 3rd string 2nd fret. The second time around, we're just going to let that C sharp hang. So we've got a little bit of call and response again. All right, and then we change completely and do some brush ups to get out of this. But I want to make one other thing known. I'm not stumbling in on the repeats. I'm waiting for that downbeat and just coming down and chunking through the bass strings, right? But I'm doing that with a palm mute, a heavy palm mute. So you're not really hearing the notes so much as you're hearing the percussive sound, right? So, because it really wouldn't sound all that great if we didn't do it. But I want that percussive, punchy, kick drummy kind of sound. So I'm just kind of pushing through there, right? And making sure that it doesn't sound. I think that's an important part of this, and one that's easy to look over, and you might want to just, instinctively just target the A. And that's cool, but we can add that extra punch and that really just kind of gritty sound to it by doing that, where we just kind of come down through and use the strings less about the notes and more about that percussive sound that we've got. All right, so now we know we're playing this with our ending like this. The second time we just let it hang, then we come back and end it like this, and then we're playing the long A. I'll move these fingers out of the way so you can see what's happening here. The long A, you can see where it gets its name. We've got our A here, A major, bar chord, and then we're playing the A up on top, the 1st string, with our stumble and some of those Charlie Patton style brush ups there. In the progression, we're going to change to a D chord, and it's going to look like this when I play it. Now, if you don't want to wrap your thumb around and catch this F sharp in the bass, you could totally finger this way. We really just need these 3 strings, fretted. The 6th string at the 2nd fret, the 3rd string at the 2nd fret as well, and then we're playing the C here on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, right? I just choose to play it like this, all right? And then what we're gonna do is we need to get into this, and it comes right after this little brush up section. All right, so we've got a real quick open 6th string before the downbeat, and we come in to the F sharp here in the bass, right? So we're really thinking D chord, D7 chord. We've just got a different low note here, right? So this low note sounds really good, sounds nice and bluesy, whereas this, you know, isn't quite low enough. We don't get that same thump that we get from the 6th string. So that's why we're choosing this. All right, and that's the part that we're playing over our D7. And actually, not truly a D7 because we've got that 1st string open, right? Which would be an E. So really a D9 with an F sharp in the bass. Cool. All right, so what we're doing this in the bass. And we're placing that chord, really just the 2 strings on the upbeat, on the offbeat. Then we play this little riff where we drop down to the 1st fret on the 3rd string, hammer into the 2nd fret, and then just pick through on the ands of the beats, the top 3 strings, strings 3, 2, and 1. So here's what this sounds like. And again, before moving back into the main riff. But here, after we do that main riff, and we're going to end it with some brush ups, we're going to step down into our E part, right? So how we did that was we leveraged this bar here, and we walked down on the 5th string to the 4th fret, 3rd fret, and then once I'm ready to hit that 2nd fret, I'm thinking E7 here, right? And I'm going to think about fretting it like this. So that middle finger is right there at the 2nd fret. Open 4th string. We're not really going to use that. And then my index finger's on the 3rd string, 1st fret. Then we're just going to play a little melody and walk up the 2nd string and do some picking here. All right, and from here, we pick up with our little turnaround part to wrap us up. If you learned something from this lesson, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to go deeper, remember you can grab additional lesson materials like the tabs, an additional tutorial, just by joining BGI at the link right over here. I hope to see you inside my BGI. Until then, practice smart and play on.